Muy buenos días.
Welcome everybody. Thank you very much for participating today in this new webinar of the Pacific Chilean Foundation, organized with ASOEX in this opportunity in India, and the Commerce Chamber of India, and with collaboration with the Indian Ambassador in Chile. To give a beginning to this webinar, we will be giving the word to Juan Angulo, who will be speaking from Mumbai to give the welcome to all of the participants in this webinar. Ambassador, you have the word.
Tienes que poner tu micrófono. Juan. No.
¿Aló? ¿Sí? ¿Aló?
Ahí sí,
¿Aló?
ahí sí.
Yeah. Sí, muchas gracias, Loreto. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Loreto, for this invitation. I'm in Mumbai, and actually we are looking for an office for our commercial office. So that's why we're here in Mumbai. I would like to thank you very much the invitation and this initiation. It is a very useful invitation for exporters, so that we can know each other and we can listen each other and concrete a better strategy to enter the Indian market. This is because the Indian market has a particular vision. Each market is different, but in case of India, the characteristics are very particular and unique. So we also want to have this vision for the exporters in order to dedicate place their products within the market. This market is a very large market. There's a very large diversity of the people in India. And that's why we have to look for different possibilities. We also want to give a better reach for different countries. This diversity means that there's always a larger, bigger formulations where people can enter in the market, and that may not be available from beforehand. And this is because there's a larger demand and a more sophisticated demand of these products, which implies having a larger demand of fresh products, healthy products, and if the product is worth it, also they are maybe more willing to pay a higher price for these products. And because of our commercial representations, agriculture representations, we are looking for these opportunities in India, and especially in this time of COVID, we are very interested to open into this market. That's why we want to contact the people in India and get a better understanding of the specific or particular demands of the Indian market. And I would like to inform that we have these bilateral treaties that will help us participate in the Indian market, and that will facilitate our bilateral commerce. And we hope that they will give us both the returns that we're willing to in each country. We're also trying to avoid the double taxes regarding this commerce. And now we are giving a second round to the negotiations regarding this commerce, regarding all the products that we are offering. So we are hoping that you will be organizing yourselves in these new visits and hoping that there will be more contact for different companies, not only in New Delhi, but also in other important countries, important cities within India. This will have to be an effort in short and long term. It won't be just short-term sales, because relationships must be done for a long-term relationship, and we must have a mutual trust, and the exporters as partners, we must be trustworthy partners for each other. I hope that we have a very productive session and that we are able to collaborate with all of the other exporters. Thank you very much, Loreto.
Gracias, embajador, por sus palabras, y también muchas gracias por haberse conectado especialmente con nosotros desde Mumbai. Sabemos que está en un viaje de trabajo, así que doblemente agradecidos. A continuación le voy a dar la palabra a la embajadora de la India en
Now
Chile.
we must give a word to the Chilean ambassador, also to the Indian ambassador in Chile. The ambassador Anita Nayer has the word.
Well, good morning to all of you, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. Let me begin by thanking the Foundation, Loreto and Luis, and all the others who've collaborated in this effort, SOX, CAM India, Orepa, but also a special thanks, I don't know if Rahul Petkar has joined us, a special thanks to Rahul. At the end of the day, it was his idea and his pushing the concept. And for us in the Indian Embassy, it's the first time we're doing something like this, where the emphasis is not on Indian exporters, but on Chilean exporters. This is purely focused on giving Chilean exporters knowledge of the Indian market. This is something we don't normally do. Normally it's the other way around. So I hope somebody in the Chilean Embassy is taking notice, Ambassador Angulo, and I hope you will return the favor at some point. I completely agree with what Ambassador Angulo said. It is something that we are doing in a very constructive and focused way now, improving our relationship. The opening of the consulate in Mumbai is just a sign of that. We recently had a joint commission meeting where the two foreign ministers spoke to each other and discussed the scope of the relationship, and some very interesting points have come up there. Agriculture is a focus area, and it is absolutely true that India as a market is a huge market, and it is increasingly getting more and more sophisticated. So even in the rural areas, there is now a demand. The other day, I was told by my friend in Mizoram, which is the northeast of India, very relatively remote from Mumbai or Delhi or any of the urban centers, that he was growing avocados in his back garden and selling them for, but the demand is so much that his back garden supply was not enough. And that brings me to the mantra that I keep repeating, that to really expand into every corner of India, the demand is there, but you need the infrastructure. So I want both sides to focus on that aspect also, to improve the infrastructure and to make your products accessible to every corner of India. We are talking about millions and millions of people. That's all I'm going to say. I'm keeping it brief. I wish you all a very productive discussion, and I hope we'll have a lot of business resulting from this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you very much for your words and for supporting this initiative. Ahora le vamos a dar la palabra.
Now we will be giving the word to the president of the Chilean Pacific Foundation, Alberto Salas, who will give us a few welcoming words. Thank you very much, Loreto. Friends, welcome, very welcome, or good evening, depending on the time zone where you're located. And thank you very much for joining this new webinar. This is a very special moment for the Chilean Pacific Foundation, not only because of the importance of the themes that we'll be speaking of today, but also because this will be specifically rewarding the collaborative spirit of everybody. Furthermore, we are giving thanks to everybody who has helped the development of the exportation of our country as one of the best best businesses that we have confronted as a Chilean country, and in the efforts in order to build the economic situation that has been affecting us. We want to contribute the exterior commerce in Chile, and we are looking forward to it as a foundation. The fruit is a great product within our global market, and we want to open our markets in order to strengthen these ties with other partners. In this context, we are making this collaborative effort with the foundation of ASOEX, Ronald Baum, and they are also looking forward to India with a cultural richness and very interesting background, because India is one of the largest markets in the world, one of the economies that has the greatest growth within the Pacific, and one of the countries with the greatest population and a middle class who is always in growth. What we want, India is a greatest opportunity place for the Chilean exporters. It presents various opportunities that we must explore and take into consideration. In order to take into consideration these elements that are more determined within the fruits, in order that we can get into the Indian market. And therefore, we have the privilege to have the participation of one of the most important retailers in India, all who are very wonderful professionals and know how to get into the Indian market without dying in the process. We have the most sincere thanks to all of the participants, to Loreto, and to this webinar, who will be presenting all of the presenters. Also, I would also like to thank very especially to Rahul, who has been able to call the majority of the speakers today, as well as our ambassador, Nayita Valle, who wanted to make this a participation and give a further opportunity for collaboration in our country. I would also like to give our thanks to Juan Angulo, who in Mumbai has been able to participate in this webinar. Now, I will give the word back to Loreto Leighton. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alberto. And now we will be giving the word to the president of the ASOEX, Ronald Baum, who will also be giving a few welcoming words, and also be speaking a bit about the presentations of this webinar. Thank you very much, Loreto.
Aló, ahora sí. Tenía algo de... Muy buenos días, muy buenas tardes a todos.
Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good evening. I would like to thank this opportunity to see these old friends who had always been supporting us, giving our thanks to the president and to Loreto, and especially to the Indian ambassador in Chile, who have collaborated in this situation. I will be making a very brief presentation, but I would like to refer myself to the future. So I would like to try to say that the future is today. What we don't do today will not become or coming in the future. Therefore, we must be work so that the future is something that really gives us joy and recognition. It must be something done collaboratively. So we must work collaboratively with each other and with our Indian friends. In this sense, we think this is a very interesting experience when they have come to visit it and when we have gone to visit them. And these are the experiences that you will be getting to know today. And what we have done specifically with kiwi, this is a very clear example of coordination, of collaborative work, and visualizing this future in function with what today is happening with the COVID situation, and also have into consideration that we will be participating in a market that is very large. We have been talking to when we have been reaching out to other countries, we never thought we were going to get to this level, and we think that India is the future. India is where we should put our bets, and we hope that we can jointly make efforts that and gear our efforts in order to do this. So now I will briefly explain a few topics, and I will be presenting my screen. But I want to tell you what we're doing in our association. Okay, so here is presentation. Okay, well, so good morning, good evening. The agriculture is very important in our country besides copper. As a whole of the foods within our country, the fruits are the largest or most important group. So we have grown more than 25 times in the last 36 years. So we are very proud that this small country has become one of the largest fruit exporters in the world, and also one of the main exporters of fresh fruit in the southern hemisphere. Our fruit is received in more than 100 countries, more than 30 species of fruit, and we have more than 1,700 importers of fruits. We have generated almost 600,000 new work opportunities, and the 7% of the Chilean workforce is inserted in this market. This is the heart of what we are doing as the ASOX Foundation and what guides our activity. And in the center of everything is always the person, our workers, our consumers. These are the most essential part in order to have sustainability in all levels. In this sense, we have three elements that confirm this sustainability: the social area, economic sustainability, and environmental sustainability. So we have our workers, our communities, the inequity of the products that are going to reach our consumers. In regards to the environmental sustainability, we are taking care of our natural resources, protection of the environment, biodiversity, the use of efficient energy, control of emissions, and the management of waste. In the economic sustainability, we are looking for efficiency, productivity, and free commerce. These are the countries are regarding the tons of fruit that are being exported. So we have United States, Asia, and Middle East are the most important, and entonces very much similar. And here we see one of the main places where we are exporting these fruits, which are usually further Asia countries. And what we can see here is that India is on a medium level, but obviously we think that there's a lot of potential in India, which is much greater than even in China. And we hope that this is so. These are the main types of fruit that are exported to India. So there's apples, kiwis, apple grapes, and others. And we're hoping that we can expand to others. Kiwi has given the biggest growth, up to a 34% in terms of volume. The evolution in regards to these main fruits imported by India, we think that we are one of the greatest importers of coconuts, of nuts, also apples, pears, kiwis, and also various citrus fruits. So we have this, the main importation would be coconuts and nuts. And here we have the main exporters to India as countries. So we have Mexico, United States, Chile is in the 3rd place, Spain is in the 4th place, and then Peru. So in the final comments, we have said that Chile and India has established a medium-term agreement, commercial agreement. When we're taking into consideration the exportations, we must take into consideration we can also have imports. We are absolutely open that the Indian products can also reach Chile, and we are hoping for reciprocity in that area. So we are absolutely willing to receive the fruit from India to our country. The imports of India to Chile are fundamentally copper, pulp, gold, and other fruits such as apples, kiwis, and others. So regarding the marketing of our exportations, we have many different visits of different organizations, including ASOEX, in order to have B2B meetings, participating in fairs and organizing different presentations in agricultural areas. And one of the last activities that we have done was in August of 2019, when we visited, when the ex-president visited the embassy. And we have been having a promotion of the Chilean kiwi in order to give a higher growth of consumption of the Chilean kiwi in India. And we are hoping that we can make and fortify our relationships between Chile and India. Thank you very much for your attention. And I hope that you have a more specific vision of what we are doing here in India with the participation of Carlos Cruzat, and with whom we have worked in a very close relationship so that the Chilean kiwi can be presented in a better way and also can grow regarding our expectations to the country. Thank you very much, and I would like to thank very much your participation and the support from both embassies. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ronald. And I would like to say that Carlos Cruzat will soon be speaking regarding the exportation of kiwis to India.
I'm going to switch to English so I can introduce our next participant, who is Mr. Amit Lohani. Amit Lohani is the founder director of Forum of Indian Food Importers, FIFI, a non-government and a not-for-profit entity that works primarily to enhance food and beverage business in India via its innumerable outreach endeavors. FIFI's core strength is its intensive database, facilitating buyers and sellers in order to accomplish its stated mission to increase F&B trade, and its unmatched experience of working as an intermediary with numerous trade governments and government of India. We're looking forward to your presentation, Amit, and thank you so much for joining today. You have the floor.
Thank you, Loreto. I'll just Is my screen visible to all?
No, not yet, Amit. You have to
Not
share.
yet.
Yes, no.
Okay, let me see.
There. Now you are.
Perfect. So,
Perfect.
a very warm welcome to all of you. I, Amit Lohani, represent the Forum of Indian Food Importers, which is a trade organization based out of New Delhi and offices in Mumbai and Bangalore and Chennai. And we would like to present ourselves, as someone who understands what's going on in the trade and how India and Chile can partner to have a fruitful relationship, because it is all about fruits when we are talking about this conversation. So as an association, what do we represent? We represent a buying figure of about $4.5 billion from all across the world. Our members import from 137 countries. We have more than 5,000 members, and we import 1,700 brands. Now, this includes fruits, dry fruits, tree nuts, processed foods, meat, dairy, another category of products under various segments. And then obviously these people are selling it to whether it is retailers, wholesalers, distributors, manufacturing facilities, food processing facilities, some government organizations, some non-government organizations, and different parts of the F&B trade, including HoReCa. The Indian market has been evolving, and everyone is talking about India. And we always used to find this tussle going on that whether China is a big market or India is a big market. I absolutely agree. At this point of time, a lot of people have seen growth in China in the last 10 years. But what you need to understand is India is a young market, so the growth trajectory in China is going to slow down, whereas the growth trajectory in India is going to grow, because more than 50% of our population is less than age of 35. So you have a higher consumption pattern when it comes to that workforce, when it comes to that dividend of humans that we have, the 1.3 billion people. Not all of your products would be able to tap into that market. So we always tell people that either you can look at the middle class, which is anywhere between 300 to 350 million. You can look at the top niche class, which ranges from 5 million to 20 million. Or you can also look at some rural sectors, what Ambassador was talking about, that there is demand in the rural sector from Mizoram, and transportation and logistics are nightmarish, but people are still buying a lot of products. We also need to take into consideration that India is the second largest fruit producer in the world. So that is something which is very important and should be taken into consideration. We are part of various global forums like G20, WTO, BRICS, ASEAN, Commonwealth. So that also makes it imperative that doing business with India becomes more relevant to the international trade. Our major exports are from US and China, and our major imports are from, again, US, UAE, and Hong Kong. Now, UAE in itself doesn't produce a lot of products, but we find that a lot of invoicing, a lot of exchange of shipments happen in UAE. So a lot of high seas sales are happening through UAE or Jebel Ali, which is very important for everyone to understand that what's going on in the Indian scenario when it comes to the F&B sector. Now, what we are seeing is we are going through one stressful time, which is COVID, and there is a huge commercial impact of COVID during this time. And the market trends have completely taken everyone aback. We found that the traditional retail, which was kind of signed off or written off by a lot of people, that traditional retail will not be able to do something, has grown by anywhere between 200 to 300%. Though organized retail also has grown, but the growth trajectory, because during this COVID period and during specifically the first 4 months or 5 months of lockdown, it was the traditional retail which was able to service to every individual in India. The organized retail came in second. E-commerce also is one of those sectors which has completely taken the growth which e-commerce has seen in the last 6 months is more than double than what it saw in the last 2 years. So consumers have understood the benefit of having products being delivered to them at their homes. Yes, a lot of consumers still want to touch their food products. They want to see, taste, smell the product before buying it. But because of the COVID situation, and this situation is going to continue for the next 3 to 6 months until we have a valid vaccine which is able to give the confidence to the consumers to go to a retail store. when we speak to organized retail stores or stores which have, glass windows and air conditioning, consumers are not spending a lot of time inside. Consumers are trying to enter the store and coming out within 20 to 35 minutes. And that's a big challenge because that is hampering the impulse buy sales. A lot of impulse buy categories have gone down because of the reason that consumers are not spending time. They want to buy their staples. They want to buy a lot of healthy food, but they want to also move out. So that is something that we see is a changing trend. But we foresee that things would change once we again have a vaccine in place. The most hit of all in this COVID situation has been the HoReCa sector, which is the hotel, catering, and restaurant. In the last 7-8 months, we don't see any growth trajectory in that. In fact, we've seen negative growth, and we see an overall decline of about $10 billion in that segment. And another 3 to 6 months, we are not seeing any positivity in that segment, which is not very good for the F&B trade when it comes to the hospitality sector. So that is one of the sectors which has completely been impacted. Travel and tourism obviously has impacted because nobody wants to travel. International flights are still moving in bubble zones in India. We cannot take an international flight for holidays. There are a lot of restrictions. So that is something which is coming out to be a big challenge for the industry at this point of time. Now, the fresh category has seen strange phenomena in this global pandemic. There is a growing demand. Everyone, see, the buzzword now has become health and immunity. Though health and immunity was there all the time, but all of a sudden health and immunity have become something which is either a fad or people are just running after it. So anything which can project health and immunity really brings up the sales of products, whether it is fresh fruits, whether it is vegetables. We still know that the highest amount of kiwi sales happen in certain parts of India when there is dengue fever, because people have been told that during dengue fever, if you consume kiwi, it's going to help you recover faster. So, these, whether recommended by doctors, whether recommended by nutritionists, these are factors which make a huge impact on the consumption patterns of the market. You're finding that increased home demands for perishables because consumers are staying at home. A lot of offices have shut down. There are a lot of people who are working from home. So that's why consumption at home has gone up. And in that, perishables, because people want to eat fresh. They don't want to eat something which is coming out of a packaged food. So that is also changing. And you are able to play with fresh because, you can clean the product. There is better hygiene when it comes to that. You're able to, there are people who are using different kind of washes to get their fresh fruit cleaned, delivered to them. So that is something which is changing, and we are seeing a spike in these ingredients when it comes to the shopping basket, especially in e-commerce. When we speak to retailers like e-retailers like Amazon and Big Basket and Grofers and Paytm Mall, all of them are talking about the fact that fresh fruit sales have gone up almost about 250 to 300% versus the other product categories that are there. Now, what are the changing trends also? What we see that, a lot of exporters from India are also coming back to India. So they are changing their export market demands and trying to pursue the Indian demand because there's huge influx and there is huge demand which is coming from the domestic sector. So they're trying to cash upon that demand. So that is very important to see what is going on. We are finding the last mile delivery solutions being delivered. A lot of companies have now come in which are only focusing on giving that last mile delivery. The logistics companies are coming in abundance, and that is changing the entire ecosystem of food delivery in India. I can sit in Delhi and get one piece of avocado delivered in any part of India within maybe 24 to 36 hours, which was never happening. So that is something consumers sitting. And India is not about rich, poor, ultra rich. India has pockets of this all across. So there is no, Delhi is not only rich people or Mizoram is not only poor people. Every region in India has rich, poor, and the ultra rich. So money is not an issue. It is about health. It is about availability. It is about accessibility, which changes, the whole scenario. Also, what we've seen is that all of a sudden social media has become very important. People are using social media as a means of communicating because there is no other way. We cannot do live sampling. In the last 8 months, no live sampling is happening. So if you want your consumers to taste a product, the only way is social media. So you have live videos, chefs demonstrations, influencers who are trying to get into the market or tapping into the market, making sure that the consumer is buying the product which they want them to buy. Now come to the regulatory environment. Everyone talks about, I will not be politically correct and say that everything is hunky-dory in India and regulatory environment is smooth in India. We always face this challenge whenever we speak to our principals all across the world, that they say that, you know, India is very complicated. India is an array of laws and regulations, and, you know, there are so many complications when it comes to exporting to India. So the challenge with that is because we have multiple authorities. So when it comes to food, there are 5 authorities that I have already presented: Food Safety Authority of India, the Legal Metrology Department, the Animal Quarantine, Plant Quarantine, and APIDA for organic. Now, today we have an authority for organic, but when we go to them and ask them, how do we import organic food? Their answer is very tepid. They don't even know sometimes, or they're not able to explain to us how do we get organic food. India is exporting a lot of organic food, especially we are promoting organic food from Northeast. But when it comes to import, there is no clear answer that we get from the authorities on import of organic food. India has recently started in the last 12 months this single window operations, where you don't need to go to these authorities. There is a single window where you upload all the documents, and all your documents are given to these authorities, and they give you a NOC, which is called a no objection certificate. The challenge with that is sometimes there is huge delay or backlog, and especially during COVID, we found that there was huge delay in terms of getting the reports. The list of documents which are very normal to any imports or exports, which is invoice, packing list, certificate of origin, health certificate. There are certain permits which are required for plant and animal quarantine, a sanitary certificate required. Now in this, recently in the last 2 months, we've seen that there has been issues being raised by the Food Safety Authority of India on the certificate of origin. Now what they are stating is that we don't want a certificate of origin stamped by the chamber, but we want it on the chamber's letterhead. A lot of countries don't have that. So that is one of the challenges that we are facing, where certificate of origin is becoming a problem in terms of a barrier which has been created for imports into the country. Now, if you look at the global trade outlook, you know that India, as any other country, the geopolitical situation has huge impact. So having good relationships politically is very important. We used to import huge amounts of palm oil from Malaysia. The scenario changed, something happened, and we started importing it from Indonesia. Now, major chunk of imports are happening from Indonesia. So, you know, that is very much important to understand that the geopolitical situation will make an impact on products from your country. We also saw that recently the government has notified that there are 23 product categories which the government has notified, in which apples and pears have come out, where you are supposed to give a declaration that the fruit which is coming in is not genetically modified. Now that is again becoming a challenge of exports, especially in apples and pears, because what I have been told is that major varieties of apples are not genetically modified, but still this restriction or a barrier has been created. We are talking to food safety. We are trying to resolve it, to get it aligned so that there is a simpler procedure. Even if the government wants it, it should be happening in a certain fashion where it doesn't hinder business. So we always promote the fact that trade has to be in continuum. You cannot hold trade or hold trade in terms of trying to have different barriers. So that is one of the biggest challenges that we face. Another challenge that we are seeing, which has not happened with Chile as of now, but what we are seeing is with ASEAN countries where we have a free trade agreement, the customs is asking for a bank guarantee till the time they verify that the value addition which has happened in the product category which has been exported out of these ASEAN countries is valid. Now this is taking 30 days clearance, which is not very conducive and which is creating a huge problem. Importers do not have that kind of bandwidth to submit bank guarantees for 100 containers. So if tomorrow there is a PTA with Chile, and tomorrow if the similar thing happens with Chilean containers, it would be a big challenge for the Indian importers, because they will not be able to submit these kind of bank guarantees and wait for 25 days. And then you are not sure whether after the bank guarantee this would work. Tomorrow the custom officer might tell you that, no, we don't agree with the submissions that you've given. So that is something which is an issue. The multiple authorities have already touched on point. So what we are also seeing is that there is huge restrictions on fresh apples and pears from China, which has increased exports from other countries. There has been regulatory tariffs against US apple, which is again a big challenge for American apples, and which might be a boon for other countries We are seeing huge amounts of apples coming in from Europe. Italy is one country, Turkey is another country which is exporting a lot of apples into India. So one man's issue is becoming one man's advantage, and which is part of trade. So what we need to understand is that make sure that all your agreements, all your product which is coming into India comes into the right, it comes into a right system, and also kind of hinders away from all the challenges which might come in their way. When you look at the Chile trade relationships, I told you that India is the second largest producer of fresh fruit and vegetable. Currently, our total market is about 3,000 million US dollars, where average tariffs range from about 30 to 50%, leaving a few exceptions, and any trade agreements that you have. We do not do a lot of value addition, and that's the biggest challenge of India, that we find that most of our produce is used as it is. We are the largest producers of milk, but we only value add about 10% of the milk produced in India. So that is there, but that also inhibits the fresh category growth in the segment. When you look at the market segmentation of fresh is the major portion of the market, and then there is freshly cut, convenience, canning happens, and then there is frozen, and dried and dehydrated is also a category which is growing in this segment altogether. When you look at the numbers, we have seen that there certain categories have grown. If you look at the sour cherry category, it has grown. Apples have kind of stabilized. There was a time, the market had seen a huge jump in 2018-19, but 19-20 they've stabilized and come down. Kiwi on the other side is again, if you look at 2018-19 versus 2019-20, it has come down a bit. So the growth drivers obviously are the changing lifestyles and the preferences of consumers. Consumers, they are aware of international food. They understand the quality aspects of a Chilean product. They understand the quality aspect of eating healthy food. Higher disposable income is always the factor which brings in consumers spending a lot of money on fresh fruits and vegetables. In terms of middle class, the growth in the middle class is phenomenal, and that is something which is always helping the market to grow at a much faster pace. The international goods are always perceived, and that is a question always when I go to the ministries and they ask me that how come consumers want an imported apple versus an Indian apple, because our Indian apple is great. And I say that people want choice. It's not about, we are not saying that our apple is great. It is about choices. Consumers want to try different apples. They have a different taste profile, different sweetness, different texture. And consumers love to, if they have disposable income, they want to try different foods. And you should give them that choice. You cannot restrict them from not consuming those products. So that is something which is always an issue with the government thinking that we should not allow many products into the country. When you look at the SWOT analysis in the Indian scenario, the strengths that we see is that, your product, because of your PTA, is very competitive, and that makes it important that you have that advantage and you capitalize on that advantage. Brand Chile is gaining recognition amongst Indian businesses and consumers. I remember a time when Chilean walnuts were kind of siphoned off as Californian walnuts, but now Chilean walnuts have a premium of their own. So there is no reason for consumers or retailers or wholesalers to sell Chilean walnuts as Californian walnuts. So things are changing. Similarly, Chilean kiwi is becoming very popular. At one point of time, the only kiwi we used to understand was kiwi from New Zealand. So things are changing, and that is something which is a strength that we have. In terms of weakness, we always say that there should be a consistent approach in the market. Have a marketing campaign which is more sustainable, more consistent. Do not come for 1 year or 2 years, do a campaign or do one activity here and one activity there, and then you are gone. That doesn't work. You need to make sure that Indian market is still about 90% unorganized. Make sure to find ways and means to tap into that unorganized market. There is no two ways about the fact that the organized market is a great platform for showcasing yourself, for having a better presentation of your products. But 90% of the market still left unturned, and that is important. So the wholesale markets need to be tapped. We have a weakness that you are at a geographical distance. Shipping time from Chile to India is anywhere between 45 days, whereas same product comes in from Turkey or Europe is at about 25 to 28 days. There is also no direct air connectivity, which means that if someone wants to import fresh fruit, which is like berries, it's very important for him to get it in the shortest distance and shortest time. So that is also, when you have direct connectivity, it is more competitive. So the competitiveness of air freight becomes better. In terms of the threats, you have competitors from all across who have huge budgets of marketing, who spend a lot of money when it comes to promoting their products. There is global tariff war, which is still going on. And we find that one of the threat is that, Indian government is delaying a lot of phytosanitary permissions for food products, especially fresh fruits from your country. So that is something which is there. We recently, about 2 years back, worked with the Embassy of Chile in Delhi with the help of Ambassador Angolo. We wrote to the ministry and requested them that please allow Chilean berries, blueberries, which is in huge demand. And the Indian government also is very understandable in terms of the fact that when an Indian trade body writes to them, they acknowledge that versus a diplomat or a foreign body, because they find them to have some motives or incentives, whereas we don't. We are business people at the end of the day. We are here for the consumers of the country. In terms of the opportunity, I think there is already negotiations going on, and expansion of the PTA would obviously benefit trade in general. Chilean high quality fruits and nuts and wines are a value buy for Indian consumers, and that is always going to remain. A certain person recently asked me that how come Chilean wines are more popular than other wines, and I said because they're value for money. I said they were like, why do consumers look for value for money when it is a product like wine? I said in India everything is value for money. Unless you attach something else to it, the value for money is the only deciding factor in terms of that. So in terms of the Indian market strategy is, please do your due diligence with your partners. That is very important. Do not go by just a Zoom call, which is these days becoming, visit his facilities, understand what's going on, try to see what kind of products he's doing, try to see his logistics solutions, try to see his warehousing, which is very important. Make sure that your product is fully compliant. And that's what we tell the government also in India, that we are instilling this thing into our members, that the product should be fully compliant in terms of food safety, in terms of legal metrology, any kind of certification which is required. So I think that is very important. Virtual engagements, which are now part of everything going on during this time, is very important. In terms of promotions, the retail promotion, e-commerce are now becoming great platforms of promotion. Retail chain is a platform. Trade media, social media, and influencers, as I earlier stated, have also taken a great stride in terms of promoting trade shows, which are not happening now. But we are expecting that from February onwards, we'll see some trade show happening in India, whether it is Sial, whether it is Annapurna, whether it is Ahar, which are large trade shows which happen into India. And anyone who is wanting to export products should come and visit the shows in the first year and maybe exhibit the next year. Hospitality events are something again which are there to support the Chilean fresh fruit market in the current scenarios. Sustained effort. India is a long-term market. Have a 10-year strategy, 20-year strategy, 15-year strategy, and you are going to reap the benefits for life. Have a 2-year strategy and you're going to lose money, and then you're going to bounce back to another market which is not going to be fruitful. So make sure you have a sustained strategy. The 3 E's that we talk about is engage, enter, and establish yourself, which is very important. And once you establish yourself, there is no turning back, and that is the key to success into the Indian market. I'm always available. These are my coordinates. If you have any questions and queries, I would be happy to answer them. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Emmett, for your very thorough and complete presentation. It's been very, very interesting. I hope that you're able to share it with us so we can put it in our website, so people who couldn't follow up completely as they would have liked to right now, they could do so later, because it was really, really very interesting. And we see that there are lots of challenges still pending between both countries, and a lot of work to our ambassadors to try to overcome all these barriers that are changing as we saw in your presentation. But thank you so much. Well, now I will continue in English because I'm going to introduce our next presenter, which is Vivek Dume. He's an industry veteran with over 30 years of experience, a successful international strategist with excellent leadership and business development skills, covering agriculture, retail, supply chain, food manufacturing, and hospitality industries. Has extensive knowledge about international markets across Australia, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Asia, North and South America. So we're looking forward for your presentation, Vivek, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much. Let me share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to be a part of this panel today. I think Amit and me shared a few stages together. I think I'm honored to be a part of it. I think he has put the stage very well, explaining all the goods and bads of India. There might be a few things which might be repetitive, but I think it's very important to stress on certain areas of how India-Chile opportunity can be more opportunized and make it into a more business perspective. The presentation which I'm trying to get to is to kind of make everybody understand India from a different perspective. I think Amit has laid down an extremely important areas of regulations, areas of how challenges are. So we want to just talk about India as a country. We want to talk about the Indian consumers. We want to talk about the different channels of sales which happens in India. We would touch base on a little bit of opportunity of how Chilean companies can take on this, and then we can take it from there. And briefly, we will talk a little bit about ourselves towards the end so that we know what we are doing. So this is a chart which I would like to emphasize on, which really excites me to see the complexity of India for people to understand. We have more than 1.3 billion population, equal or probably similar to China, which we all relate to. We are probably about a 17% of the whole world population, 4,000 plus cities, 600,000 plus villages. We have 8 religions. We got more than 72 festivals which we follow. So it's a very interesting, complex, and very vast, spread out country, which actually will give you an identification of if anybody wants to relate the world to India, don't look at India as India. Every state resembles a population of these countries. So if you see Chile, which is just to relate of the population, which is just a part of, or probably Delhi in the north of India, which is equivalent to the whole of Chile. So if anybody has to see India, the recommendation is to look not as India, look at it by each areas, each places. Every 100, 150 kilometers, if you travel north, south, east, west, one would find different culture, different languages, different behaviors, clothings, everything changes across. So the challenge which I have seen most of the time entering India, from not only from Chile, but from anywhere in the world, people look at India as an Indian market. I think it's important what Amit said very clearly is to engage and understand the country more deeper, so which can show the opportunity of how big this country can get us to. This is one of the most important areas I feel is the consumer. So in the next few years, or the trend which is going, if you see the trend of the youth people, we are below the age of 40, which is the most important area, and it is growing rapidly. And on the left-hand side, I've tried to figure out a chart which relates us to China, because that's one of the big markets at this moment, specifically Chile and also the world market, looking at of how the consumer behavior goes as a consumer buying, specifically in the metropolitan cities. And if you see that there is a lot of parity between how both the markets work in terms of a consumer reaction is concerned. But the most interesting part is the youth population, which is our next trend of trying to build a consumption pattern, which is different than what the old generations were used to. Their travel, their studying overseas, their exposure towards the world market has changed. Their lifestyles have changed, income levels have changed, and youth is the only area of consumers which are willing to change. They're looking for finding things different than what people used to be used to. And that creates a huge opportunity going forward, looking at the percentage of population of the whole country, how it operates. This is an interesting chart which I found is, I mean, if you look at the colors, it just tells us affluent, middle class, emerging middle class, and the lower class. And this was the statistic of 2017. If you see the chart versus 2022 expected of, the middle class is getting larger. The affluent class is getting larger. I think Amit touched on that very, very well. So if you see the kind of change happening in this whole, the whole economical consumer market, I think it's very interesting. And you know, the statistics showed that the middle class will probably drive 75% of the consumer spending, and which is nearly about 80% of household for a middle class income. And the high bracket, the affluent market, is willing to spend more because they need to get more and more differentiators of how it is. And if you see the amount of percentage of affluent going bigger, probably it would be larger than a few countries in the world in terms of population. So it is showing very positive growth, specifically on a consumer concern is concerned. There are challenges, but I think the opportunities needs to be understood, and it's a long-term game. The three different areas of how Indian sales happen is, one is the traditional sale, which has been there for years together, which consists of wholesale, across the counter, hand carts, which has no infrastructural, no air conditioning, or no cold chain to be saying. Food safety is questionable, but I think more than 90% of sales, or probably more than that, get sold on that area. The organized retail, which is an upcoming area, which has probably been into the Indian market for probably last 20 years, and it is growing, but it still consists probably close to around 10% of the total sale market. The new generation e-commerce, which has been evolving in the last little while, I think has taken some heat on the market, and I think it's growing very rapidly. Just to give some imagery of how a traditional market sells, to understand, so that anybody who is exporting, looking at that market, if we do not do it correctly, it is going to land up here. And if it cannot sustain this kind of, I won't say abuse, but this kind of a way of selling, I think, the confidence level of a consumer starts to get lower and lower. So this is one of the area, but at the same time, there are very high-end or very well, closed stores and a brick and mortar, which sells product in the same form, which we all used to in Europe, US, North America, or any other market, which is an organized way, which is growing. Here are a few names of retailers. So we see that a lot more people coming on and trying to create more and more retail space. So there are hyper supermarkets, cash and carries, we have gourmet formats, specialties, and e-retailers, which are all coming up recently on that. The existing supply chain is a little complex. This looks a little bit more prettier than it is. It could be more worse than that. But if you see from the time it grows till the consumer receives, there is a lot more people involved. It changes a lot of hands. It could be imports, it could be local. There's a lot of challenges which faces for the consumer not to get something which is more and more less in terms of how it has been transported. So there's an opportunity there. This gives us a little information about the market size. So if you see 2017 versus expected 21, the unorganized market still consists more than 75% or 80% of the market. The retail segment, which was close to about 9, is expected to be probably about a 10, 15, or 18% margin. The e-commerce is also growing very rapidly, but the most important, also Amit specifically said, is that the bigger market is still unorganized. It's very, very important to see. And this tells us how it is all sold. And we would like to have everybody's attention that we should not ignore this market. Regardless of however flashy any market is, 80 or 90% of the market is relating to these kind of sales, and which is huge, massive. They go from door to door, they go from city to city, they go as interior as tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, they just get into the interiors. It is actually amazing. We talk about cold chain worldwide. Without having cold chain, it reaches every corner of Indian market, which we showed in that previous thing, and people consume and they enjoy. Imported fruits are concerned, I believe it has not penetrated more beyond a tier 2 or a tier 3 to a large extent. But I think that is a market untapped of to make this thing more and more attractive. This is a little old data, but at least it was giving us a very interesting per capita consumption. And if you see India, it's still around that 60 kilogram per person per capita per kilogram per year. And if you see the world is high up there on 80 or 100 kilogram basis. So there is still a lot of opportunity for consumers to grow. The only challenge here is we do not know how to validate, because at the same time, the population also is growing up. So will it be at parity with the consumption? Probably yes, but that is a question to be answered as we go. These are some statistical data. The chart on the right is a little old dated because I cannot find something equivalent earlier, because China is not allowed to get into India for the last 2 or 3 years. But it just gives us a perspective that the apple market is probably about 60% of total fruit imports into India. And there are different countries how it has been shared, and about $500 or $600 million of imports of fresh produce, growing at least 10–12%. Apple, citrus, kiwis, pears, grapes are probably the topmost fruit. Major importing countries are the United States, Chile, Italy, South Africa, New Zealand, Egypt. But now more and more countries are trying to approach, specifically Turkey, Poland. I mean, there are countries which have come up from nowhere. I think they are coming up and being very strong, aggressive in that market of how it is. This is some statistical data about, probably for the last year's data. And the highlighted part is the Chilean numbers, which we could find in the system. And if you see apples and kiwis were significant out of Chile into India. Rest everything is following. If you see, Italy is the next one, which is also coming up. United States was probably the largest, but I think it is slowly trying to perish it out, and other markets are coming up. If you see kiwi, I think here is a very interesting areas where Chile is growing rapidly. Iran has been very prominent, but I think Chile, New Zealand, I think people realize the importance of difference. United Arab Emirates, as Amit said, there is nothing grown there, but a lot of documents get transferred there, a lot of transshipments happen there. So we don't have the clarity about the origin, but unfortunately, that's what it shows on the system. New potential products. So as we see the youth population changing, as we see consumer behavior changing, the retail coming in space, when I say retail, it's organized retail, e-commerce coming on place, consumers are asking them to say, what new? How can we be differentiated? We are kind of fed up eating apple, pear, kiwi, which is all good. What new? When we go out of the Indian market, we see so much of speciality. So product like cherries, blueberries have really started taking some heat into the market. Kiwi, which was rightly said that New Zealand was the only one known probably 5 years back or 4 years back. And today Chile plays a very, very important role. Volumes are going up. they are equally comparable to what people were used to. There has been a consistency of supply, though Iran, Greece, Italy, and other markets are trying to be in the market, but believe that's a market which is growing. There has been a lot of health benefits which has been promoted as a kiwi as a category. There has been a lot of immunity. There has been a lot of diseases which people are believing that having kiwi would help them, and we see their sales really going up, specifically during the winters. And that's a very interesting part, which we realize how consumer perception changes if you can make them believe into that. So these are some data. If you see Chile, like in terms of imports, they're almost about a 36%, about 83 tons of product came in. This was probably last year's data. This year, probably it might be much larger. Interestingly, COVID, people realize that it's going to be a challenge of how consumers are going to behave. And the trend which we all are seeing for the last probably 6-7 months is that because there is less spending on things which people used to spend of traveling, eating outside, socializing, partying, functions, marriages, which has not actually happened. And nobody realizes that there has been a lot of saving for some reasons, which people don't realize where did the money come in from. So the only thing they want to be healthy, they want to eat food, and they want to try something which they never tried before. And anything new, any perceptively new product, anything which we can show them connecting to their lives, probably is changing their lifestyle to say, let me try. And they have that extra little money to spend to try something new. And if they like it, that becomes a habit of it. So it's a very important area to be looked at, a consumer trend is concerned. Chile as a country, about 2 years back probably was my first visit to Chile. Thank SOX and the Kiwi board. There was a retailer's trip which was organized. I've personally been dealing, and I think Indian market has been dealing through a lot of middlemen traders. And the impression which was created was it's impossible to go to Chile and buy product, or it is not concerned, not there. But I think that trip was probably an eye-opener. We were a few retailers there. We went around, we looked around the whole thing, and we realized that the world is different than what we thought it could be. And personally, we took it as a company very, very seriously about enhancing this opportunity of establishing our footprint in the Chilean market. As we say, currently we have a registered office in Chile starting early this year. We have been trying to approach the market in different ways. The biggest opportunity we see is the preferential rate, because at the same time in the Southern Hemisphere, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa are the competition in the market. But nobody has that privilege of the preferential trade. In terms of comparability, I think Chile plays that higher role. The only challenge is the distance between the geographical distance for travel, which makes it a challenging part. But personally, I believe that it is not as a challenge as what it could be. If there could be an opportunity looked upon to see how do we overcome that part, I think there is a huge opportunity. And we all have seen numbers grow, specifically in apple and kiwis. Last 2 years, this year, we have seen a tremendous demand on blueberries and cherries. So these areas could be a very interesting areas of working. This is a little bit enhancement of what Amit had already said. So costing is important because India is a developing market. People do not know what to relate with. They have always been used to a certain price range, unfortunately. So for them to break that mindset, they need to see value. So we need to be rightly priced, which is very important because the whole world is trying to compete and try to win that market. Quality has no differentiator. There is nothing, there is no compromise to say that we can probably put at an X price and we can compromise on quality. So quality is the topmost, not only because of travel, because the way also it is sold in that market, the major part which we express is being sold in a very inappropriate manner of how it should be sold. So that's the most important of how you harvest, how do you allocate for India, how do you make it transport, how do you pack it, educating people, it's very important. Compliances, which is what I think Amit also touched on, is a challenge. There is a lot of unclarity, but still whatever clarity we have, I think one needs to really understand the right compliances and follow them, which is very, very important, because traveling for 45 days on boat or by air goes to the airport or the port, and it gets stuck for people to break their heads for it. And it's a perishable product. I mean, in few days, we might find probably juice more than the fruit to eat, so we should be very careful there. Distribution network is the most important. There is the cold chain or the distribution network is adequate enough, but may not be as strong as it should be, but it works. So having the right partner with a good distribution or a good market access is very, very important. The most important is to have a partner. I mean, this is something which we always engage in. It's a long-term game. Unless and until you don't have a right partner, it can never get to the next level. There is so much of challenges. The most thing we see is trade. It's about buying and selling, which is important, which is an outcome. But the more time one can spend in identifying a good partner, working with that partner, and trying to become an alliance, I believe long-term, they would be the winners. Short-term, it's a painful thing because it doesn't give you volumes, it doesn't give you the glamour, it gives you a lot of pain because you're trying to get two people, two individuals or two companies to try to be together. But if somebody has the patience, that is the way to go, regardless who it is. And engaging in the experts, because we believe that everybody is an expert. So you are an expert in your farm, a partner in the other part is expert in their markets. So engaging that relationship is the most important factor for any sustainability and growth of this business. So these are some areas of business which I think every country, it doesn't matter what it is, and specifically Chile, because it's an exporting heaven, they prefer exporting. Their biggest market is China currently, which is great. China pays huge amount of premiums. And I think everybody's focused there. Europe is the number 2, I believe, and then North America is number 3, and then the rest of the world. India is still not looked upon as premium or as exciting as these markets. They all want to be there, but it does not come across very well. But just a word of caution that India is getting there. Even though with all the complexity, it's growing pretty rapidly, the economy is getting stronger, consumers are changing, and it's an untapped market. What we say is that China is a tapped market, or Europe is a tapped market. India is an untapped market. The more you make them beneficial and healthy, the more they would be with you, and then you have 1.3 plus stomachs to feed. You may not get to 100%, but even though you get to 10 or 15%, which is a huge amount of market. Just to talk a little bit about ourselves, very briefly. So we are an end-to-end supply chain management company. We collaborate with leading growers and retailers to make fresh food available to consumers across the world. We only believe in partnerships. We do not believe in just having a trade. We try to enhance and support the whole system from end to end, so the consumers, everybody has a full transparency of what we do. We would like to be called an ally or a partner. We handhold the entire journey of fresh fruit, and we make sure it is from farm to shelves, enabling all the food growers and retailers to focus on what they do their best. Instead of everybody doing differently, we are saying that, let us manage your in-between part, which is what a challenge is with 4, 5, 7, 8 layers, to bring both together and try to get as much as value to the consumers more than all of us. In turn, it gets the best value for consumers. It gets the best value for growers, as well as the whole system works pretty long. We have an extensive network of distribution. Very, very blessed to have very good partners across the world, and which really give us a very important areas of working. That's our principle of trying to minimize the whole chain to get to the consumer as slow as possible and keep the transparency between the whole world. This is a little bit of information about our physical presence. In Chile, we have a physical presence. Canada, United States, we have a physical presence. India, we have a physical presence. But Italy and UK, I mean, you would have Natasha. Thank you for her to be here. Great partner. I think it's a great story. She would talk more about it. And the other places we have associate partners. These are a few brands which we work with in different formats. It could be supply, could be consulting, could be knowledge, could be in different formats. And just to say that we only believe in partnering more than trading. And I think not only for us, but anybody who would like to do business, specifically in India, or could be any country, but we're talking about India here. The only way one can be successful is by partnering forever. And it's a long game. If anybody is looking for a short game, they will lose money. It's not going to work. Trading can continue, but start believing in partnering with the right partner. Take your time, understand the partnering, and that is what I would say.
Muchas gracias, Vivek. Ha sido una presentación muy completa.
Thank you very much, Vivek. This has been a very complete presentation, very attractive, and placing India in the center of our attention. So now we will be entering in a new session. So now we'll be having a few Q&A to respond to certain questions that we'll be having. So we'll be inviting two guests, and I'll be giving a brief biography so that they will be making the questions that you have. I'll ask you please to make the questions through the chat. So make the questions for everybody in the audience so that I can make the questions. So the two persons who will be helping us in the Q&A will be
head product in Trent Hypermarket Limited, a joint venture of the Tata Group company, Trent and Tesco PLC, the UK, the United Kingdom. He is responsible for sales and profitability for fresh and staples across all Star Retail's formats in India. He has been part of the modern retail journey in India and is proud to have played an active role in the evolution of category management in food retail. Muy interesante poder tenerlo para poder responderles preguntas a ustedes. El otro invitado es Ramlingha Rahu. Presently, Rahu is head of Fresh Business Future Group, one of India's largest retailers. An experienced retail professional, he has earlier worked with Tesco PLC and the retail venture of Tata Group, Trent Hypermarket, responsible for the fresh division, overseeing sourcing, category management, and driving initiatives for importing fruits from US, China, Egypt, Netherlands, and Thailand, and hopefully now from Chile. Nice to see you, Ramlingha, and we hope that this is attractive enough for you to start working with Chile as well, including us in this list of countries that you have worked with. I'm going to switch to Spanish. Voy a cambiar al español para poder contestar las preguntas que hayan. Yo tengo una pregunta acá en el chat que me hicieron. La voy a hacer en inglés porque está en inglés. Dice, regarding dogs required, we have been asked to issue a non-GMO certificate since January 2021. Is there any choice of getting this certificate issued in Chile by our authorities or get Indian authorities to avoid this request? I don't know who wants to go and have any suggestions or
maybe Raju, you can take that one.
Okay, go ahead, Uday. Thank you.
No, I would say if Raju can add some light on that. I'm not very sure about the GMO part of it. Yeah,
so let me give you some thoughts on this. The new notification coming out of the authorities saying that there are probably a list of I think 50, I'm not sure 100%, but there's a list of products. In the fresh products, there is apples and I believe pears, which cannot have a certificate of origin from Chamber of Commerce, what Amit mentioned, but it is to be certified with a GMO certification, non-GMO certification. And we are not sure how every authority is going to give. We are trying to investigate that with our partners in different part of the world, but I don't believe that there's a clarity about how. If we can be proactive now, because January is across the board, we have to find out what's the best way to get that certification. I don't know, Amit, if you have anything different than this?
Yes, so I spoke to Dr. Sharma, who's the Director Imports of Food Safety, who has issued this notification. I had a word with him today as well, because a lot of fresh fruit importers in India approached us for the same. And we are having a meeting with him day after tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. and trying to find an amicable solution to this, because at the end of the day, the biggest challenge is that a lot of countries do not have authorities. Now, this certificate has to come from a phytosanitary authority in the country of origin. Right. So and what he's done is he told me that they have used the word competent authority. Now, competent authority can be anything and anyone. What I've been told by the importers is that the farmers or the growers are willing to give this certificate that their product is non-GMO. But what we are trying to work is an amicable solution where the grower gives that certificate. Plus, there is a stamp from one of the phytosanitary authorities in the region, maybe a regional authority like APHIS is there in US. There would be a regional authority in Chile, which can certify that yes, the fruit is coming from a tree which is non-GMO. So that is something that we are trying to see. And obviously, this is starting in January 2021. My first request with the authorities would be to give an extension of another 6 months so that we are more streamlined before they go ahead and implement it. And if we get that 6 months, so then we would have a period of about 8 months. So this would not be a hanging sword on our heads for the current period.
There's also one unclarity, Amit, and if you can enhance on that, is it shipments after the 1st of January or arrival?
It's arrival. It's always arrival. Indian law always stipulates in terms of when they arrive, because there is no way to find out when the shipment left first, arrives after 45 days or 60 days. And in India, things change. So it is arrival. So that's why they've given a 3-month notice. This is already gone to WTO. So it's not that they have not submitted to WTO. Now, I am sure that we have been speaking to the European Union also, and they've been raising it at higher platforms that this is kind of a non-tariff barrier because certain products which are not GMO are being asked to certified as being non-GMO. It's something, becomes complicated, and it adds to the workload and also complications in terms of custom clearances. And here in India, we are always talking about now ease of doing business. So this is not part of ease of doing business. This in fact is the complete opposite of that. But so I think we are hoping that this gets resolved by this week. And the Director Imports would be able, because he did issue this notification about 1.5 months back. Then we went to him, we asked for clarifications because we have a lot of processed food importers. So he issued a clarification that this does not apply to processed food importers. There are 25 products, mainly it is about grains. But yes, there are 2 fruit categories. One is apple and one is pears, which have been brought into this category.
Correct. We'll have to work on that. So no, there is no clarity, Loreto. So just to say that.
We'll have to wait till we would have more clarity maybe on Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
And if I may just interject, I know that under the preferential trade agreement between India and Chile, the format of the certificate of origin, the format of various certificates, the competent authority, everything has been decided mutually. And if this is something which has not yet been covered, we are going to have the next round of discussions on the PTA, and perhaps this could be a suggestion from the Indian side to our Ministry of Commerce and from the Chilean side to the Vice Ministry of Trade here to take this up and cover this loophole also, if it is a loophole under the Chile PT.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much for that broad answer. And I have another question that it's related to marketing. In terms of marketing promotion for Chilean fruits in India, what elements and strategies would you recommend, both in terms of the narrative and communication channels? In this sense, would it make sense to develop a strategy based on country of origin and product attribute information? Are these strategies normally efficient among Indian consumers? Would you recommend promotion strategies segmented by state and or types of communities? Since you have mentioned that the traditional market is still the most important in India, how can the Chilean exporters reach to this market through marketing? How do they reach them? That would be more or less the question.
I think if I can start with what my thoughts are, and maybe Raju can add later. So with respect to marketing, I think what has been already mentioned in the convention so far is health and immunity are two big areas which resonate well with the Indian customer. And I think some of the fruits have already capitalized on that trend. For example, we see here in India full page advertisements on kiwi fruit and one fruit giving the recommended dietary allowance of vitamin C for the whole day. So that is a platform on which kiwi as a fruit has been built. Similarly, you have the US board, which has been advocating pistachios, saying that it's very high in protein. So in a similar basis, there is always a potential to create a differentiation, which is product or a feature based. For example, apple, it is loaded with fiber. So is fiber something that we can talk about for a particular fruit? So the idea is to create a differentiation in the minds of the customer, saying this fruit really is standing for something unique, which is different, may not be found in other fruits. So that's one platform in which you can build the product differentiation. And I think from that point of view, if you look at what the next big bets are, lemon, cherry, blueberry, avocado, even walnuts. So Chile already exports a lot of walnuts into India, and I think that walnuts by their very nature are extremely healthy, and dry fruits in India have a cultural and religious association also. Dry fruits in India are considered to be extremely healthy. People already know their virtues. So one platform from a marketing point of view is really to highlight the unique health and immunity related aspects of the fruit. Then coming to country of origin, yes, some countries have established themselves. For example, you have New Zealand, which kind of has established itself as the kiwi expert, and the brand that's done it is Zespri. And even in the apple scenario, there is a perception that New Zealand apples are supposed to be more premium and more better in quality as compared to others. So while some countries have also, but that's not been an active marketing strategy. It's, I think, something that has evolved over a period of time. When it comes to the platform in which you have to communicate, it is really the mix or the channel that we have to consider. And like we spoke about so far, there are essentially three channels or route to market, which is your traditional trade, your modern trade, and e-commerce. And your marketing mix, therefore, has to be tuned to that particular channel, and it is not one size fit all. So if you're going to be talking to the consumer who's going to be buying in the traditional trade, then the marketing, the language of communication, what you choose to amplify will be different as compared to the other extreme where you talk about, say, e-commerce, where the customer is very digitally savvy. You might want to reach out using digital and social media platforms, and your marketing mix, what you talk about, the products itself will vary. So that would be my thoughts on how you would want to market and create differentiation. Anything from your side, Raju?
Thank you so much.
Raju, we can't hear you.
Sorry, can you, yes, Vivek, do you have any doubt?
No, Raju was saying, I think we can't hear him.
Sorry, Raju, go ahead. But we cannot hear you, Raju. No.
No, there's a sound issue, looks like.
Yeah, he had problems of communication. Maybe he will
Yeah,
try.
just to add to Uday's statement, I'm looking at it from a consumer perspective is concerned, is people work with emotions in India. India is more of an emotional country than a realistic country. And anybody who creates a space in their hearts, I think creates a very good, important areas. And as I showed you the various cultural differences with everywhere, everybody relates to their own culture much more stronger. Is it possible to do everything? No, but if you pick up a few areas of emotions, and if you can hit their hearts by showing their importance of how Chilean exporters of fruit would relate to their lives in whatever format, it would be probably very interesting to see how the consumer behavior would change. Today, the origin matters, but does not matter. So far, anybody can, like if you say a blueberry, for example, if you keep 10 blueberries, people would not even think, is it from Chile or from Peru or from any other place? But if you emphasize that heartbeat with the origin, and it becomes an imprint in their minds, it works for a long period of time. So that's what I would say from both angles of that.
Thank you very much, Vivek. We're going to go through a last question for this section, but then sorry, Raju, you're back. Do you want to add something?
No, we can't hear you.
What a pity.
Yeah, I know. Connectivity probably.
Yeah. We're very sorry, Raju, we cannot hear you.
It's okay, they can move on.
Okay. Well, but we're going to have another session of questions and answers. So we hope that we can have you there, Raju, being able to hear you. I'm going to go through the last question for this period, and it's in Spanish. It says, ¿Cómo el preferential trade agreement, el PTA,
how will the PTA benefit us? How much more competitive will we be? Does it have to do, or is it related with a 50% tax that we have on apples?
Sorry, we didn't get the question. If you can repeat it.
It says that how the PTA is going to help us, how more competitive we will be able to be because of this agreement. Does it have to do anything with the 50% of taxes that we have that we have today for the cases of the apples?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think the only two products I believe is blueberries and kiwis, which has the preferential rate currently. Apples and cherries, I believe they don't have. Since it's going to be a competitiveness compared to the competition at that minute of time, anything which can attract people and the consumers to buy a product equivalent to a good product with a competitive rate would certainly become a very, very important area. So preferential rate for apples would add 50% is what the whole world pays. United States probably last year, they got it to 70% for whatever reasons. So everybody's at a 50% ratio. The transit from Chile is very far. So the freight cost is almost double than normal. If there is a preferential rate, it could be competitive as well as more market share.
Okay, thank you so much. There's a request that if in the meanwhile that we continue with the presentations, that you can write your contact information, all of you panelists, in the chat maybe, so everyone can have your information so they can contact you later. So if you can do that in the meanwhile, we will really appreciate it. You will have to write it to everyone, please, so they have access to that information if it's possible. That's going to be very helpful for people who would like to contact you afterwards. Okay, so now we're going to go to the second half, and we're looking forward for this presentation because she has been very successful already. We're going to have Natasha Linhart. Natasha is the founder, CEO, and majority shareholder of Atlante. She's a British national and resides in Italy. Natasha founded Atlante in 1996 with her late husband.
Okay.
They have led Atlante through years of consistent growth. Today, Atlante employs 72 people and is active in India, Italy, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom, United States, and Japan, making some 55,000 deliveries each year and recording a turnover of 150 million euros. We're delighted to have you today, Natasha. This is going to be very interesting for our exporters, especially from our apple exporters in Chile.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And first of all, thank you to all of, we are really halfway between Chile and India, so we're a little bit out of the geographical picture of today, but still, here we are. And thank you to Vivek. It was lovely to see the wonderful photographs of India. It makes me cry because we love India, and here we are stuck with this damn COVID and we can't travel. I remember the beginning of this year, we were meant to hold a very important event at the Italian embassy in Delhi, where we were going to share some interesting experiences of mixed culture. The Italians consider themselves the Indians of Europe because we have a sort of colorful culture and we have a lot in common with the Indians, even though we're in different continents. And the relationship we have created with Fruitsy over the years has been really something special. So I would like to just quickly share with you a small presentation that I have prepared so that we can show you a little bit our experience, which may be useful for you from Chile, may be useful for whoever is looking at it. So I will share it. Can you see it?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so first of all, I'm stealing a little bit the logo which Amit Lohani used earlier. I like the word a fruitful partnership, and it really has been a fruitful partnership between Atlante and Fruitsy in India. So Atlante, we've already had the presentation made at the beginning of this little contribution of mine, but we basically export Italian food all over the world, and we import food from different countries. We have a few very strategic relationships. One is obviously the one with Fruitsy. Then we have, we are the strategic partner of Sainsbury's in the UK, whereby we are their sourcing partner for Italian products, but not only Italian, also from the south of Europe. Migros is our partner, he's our shareholder. 20% of our company is owned by Migros, which is the biggest retailer in Switzerland. And yes, our turnover is actually 165 million this year, also due to the massive increase we have all experienced in the food world, particularly in some categories, commodities, especially with COVID, people not eating in restaurants but buying from supermarkets, and supermarkets are mainly, retail is mainly our customers. So yes, the special relationship that we have with Fruitsy, and going back to what Vivek was saying earlier, we really value, particularly because we are at such big distance, we value the importance of having a relationship based on trust, where we each do our own job and we try and do it to favor and to benefit the relationship. So basically we are managing the scouting, the sourcing, the quality control and the supply chain of apples from Italy to India. And Fruitsy is basically our eyes and ears on the Indian market, and feeding us the necessary information that we need in order to make sure that the products, the quality of the apples, the variety of the apples, and the different tiers of the apples, whether they be a cheap version or a more expensive version, is exactly what our final customer and ultimately our final consumer is expecting. So yes, India, a huge market with multiple challenges. We've seen in the presentations before ours that there are challenges, and it is a huge market. We've seen the data which both Vivek and the previous panelists have presented. So it is one of the biggest markets of fresh produce. It has a tremendous diversity, which is also an opportunity. So we can see that different products are appreciated in different ways in different parts of the country. I was surprised when I came to India at how, let's say, specific the product must be to correspond to the local needs. So we always imagine from an outsider that India is this massive country with lots and lots of people, but actually, yes, lots and lots of people, but all very different. So this was a tremendous sort of learning curve, which Vivek has carried us on this journey. So to understand, as I'm repeating myself, but to really understand the market, the local market, but also to be close to the growers on origin is really what we are after. So basically, in a nutshell, we can say that Atlante in Italy has an excellent on-the-ground technical team. We have a team made of 12 people. Some of them are agronomists, some of them are food technicians, food safety. So we have a tremendously competent technical team who actually go and follow also all the ethical teams on the field. So we follow the growers, we try and understand what their challenges are, and talk to Fruitsy about them so that we can plan well in advance. We have a very good competitive international supply chain, so this is extremely important when we're managing thousands and thousands of containers all over the world. We can take advantage of this competitive advantage, because obviously transport costs are not to be underestimated, and also the quality of the supply chain is very important, making sure that the product is loaded correctly from the farm. Apples, we all know the way they're picked and thrown into big buckets. We must be very close to the farmer to make sure that he treats the product well, because the product will have to go through a long supply chain, at least 30 days on the sea, so it must arrive in good shape. So we have a very strong relationship with the local growers here in Italy. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Italy, but there's a wonderful area in the north of Italy which is growing apples, and there is a strong tradition here to grow apples in a very good way, protecting the environment, so using very little chemical products on them, so the actual final quality is very good. So Fruitsy obviously has the knowledge that we need on the market, the knowledge of India as a continent. We have a tremendously competent team in India which manages the incoming goods. So we're in touch with our team way before the products arrive, so that they can prepare everything that needs to be done to clear customs. And this is an area which must not be underestimated, because when you know that the port of Mumbai may be loaded and full of ships with thousands of containers that need to be cleared, you've got to make sure that whoever is managing your customs clearance has got the right documents and everything is absolutely up to scratch. There also has to be a very agile decision-making team in India, which we have, that can manage the products on arrival. and also the ability to divert products if necessary. There could be, unfortunately, it does happen occasionally, that there is some quality issues with the fruit, which can happen because of the supply chain, or because there could be a few apples which arrive which are not totally in line with what we're expecting. So if we have a team there that is able to rapidly unpack, make sure that our final customer always gets the product perfect, and if necessary we have to discard or divert the product into other areas, whether it be industry or fruit juice making or whatever. So this is a very important part of the job that Fruitsy does on the ground. And obviously the long-term relationship with local customers and retailers. This is very important also to manage moments. We all know that there have been moments of difficulty in India. I remember, when was it? Time flies, but what was it? A couple of years ago, there was the general elections, and with the general elections in place, there was a moment in which the country was suffering from lack of cash because of local laws. And so suddenly there was a complete stop to the market. Now, having somebody on the ground who can relate to the customers and stock the products properly, make sure that for 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever they are well looked after, and then feed them back into the market. This proved to be a tremendous asset. And the same today. Today we have India, which is hit by this pandemic, as we are here, and to manage the relationship with the local customers is extremely important. The quality standards. So the quality standards of the products have to again match the expectations of our customers, which can be varied. We tend to, going back to what Vivek was saying before, if you want to give visibility to a certain product and give it a brand, like in the case of Fruitsy, we want to make sure that the standard of the Fruitsy brand or the brand of our customer is absolutely consistent and always the same. So again here, we never really imagined that the Indian final consumer is so fussy, but he or she is, and we try and give them exactly the right product, whether it be the color, the bricks level, the shape, the size. So we work with the producers, with our growers, to make sure that we always have the right product at the right tier. Again here, we tend to go back to this business of the relationship, but it really is important to be each one of us doing our job. So the partnership that we talked about already, the market expertise, understanding the local market, what they want at that specific moment in time, the transparency. Fruitsy and Atlante work on a complete transparency. Whether it be from a financial perspective, understanding how to manage different customers or different producers. So this is also a very good part of our relationship. And final but not last, we have together, collectively, Fruitsy and Atlante have decided that this project, we call it Project India, is a strategic, it's not just a transactional thing. We're not just looking at India as a massive market where to flog a few apples. No, thank you. We're looking at India as a long-term partner, a country which is clearly a country which is got lots of challenges, but clearly a tremendous opportunity, and we want to be there today in order to be there tomorrow. So the case history, we started only a few years ago. Time flies. 2018, beginning of 2018, we started working with Fruitsy, and handheld by Vivek in person, told us exactly what to do, helped us on all the bureaucratic, documental, quality issues. We had a team of our Indian partners come over to Italy to actually see the growers. We spent a few lovely days in the north of Italy visiting our producers, and they were very happy to meet the final consumers. It was actually great fun, and I'm looking forward to do these kind of things again. Then obviously we've been over to India a number of times to see how we can improve the business there, to really understand what's going on the ground in order to maintain the right standards that we need. 2020 obviously has been a challenging year for us all, and it continues to be challenging. I'm hoping, as we all are, that this nightmare of this COVID business will soon be part of our old memory, and we will start saying, you remember the days in which there was COVID, we hope. So we're traveling through this, but actually we must continue to be grateful of the fact that we are operating in the world of food, particularly fresh food, produce, which is definitely on the rise in terms of choice from consumers all over the world. We want to eat healthy, we want to eat transparent, we want to eat non-processed foods, and apple is really the symbol of this. We all know that an apple a day keeps the doctor away, so we're hoping that this motto will continue forever. So basically, yes, the Indian market is complex, it has clear rules, a lot of them, it's pretty bureaucratic, but once you understand them and once you know how to manage this, India is a fantastic market, and we're hoping that beyond apples and beyond a few other products that we sell to India in terms of produce like kiwis or others, the market will grow to a point that we will be able to also look into typical Italian products which may attract the Indian consumer in the near future. So that is it. This is just a few pictures of how the apples are managed in our packers. And as you can see here, our beautiful Fruitsy logo and our beautiful Fruitsy apples from Italy. So thank you to all for listening.
Thank you to you, Natasha. Very interesting. It's an example on how useful it is to have a good partner to get into Indian market. And
yes,
it seems like it is a key issue for being successful.
Yes, yeah. It is a key. It is definitely a key element, and I recommend it to all Chilean companies who want to enter the Indian market to really rely on, if they could rely on one, because then you get, you really get the full advantage of this. Even though it's an enormous country and you would like to possibly have lots of different importers, my experience is that it is better to really have a strong partnership with one who can manage all the on-the-ground business and the sales and the commercials and everything on the ground. And we do our job here with the farmers, making sure the quality is right and shipping the products according to the requirements.
Yeah, thank you so much, Natasha. And I guess that this applies not only for apples, that was your case, but in the case of Chile, for example, that people interested in exporting citrics, let's say lemons or oranges.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Chile is famous for the amount and abundance and variety of fresh fruit and produce. So actually, I mean, we import in Italy, we import a tremendous amount of products from Chile. Not ourselves. The market is well covered in Italy, but we never know. We might endeavour in this both for Italy and for the UK, because we're doing a lot of importing into the UK as well. So Europe is obviously a big importer of Chilean food as well. So this is definitely something we'll be looking into.
We are trying to convince Natasha to look at Europe. We'll be there soon.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natasha. We're gonna have Carlos Cruzat to make his presentation. I'm gonna introduce him, and then we're gonna have the last session of questions and answers. We have some questions about the citric market in India, but we will come back to that in a second. Carlos Cruzat, I'm gonna switch to Spanish for the translators to make their life easier. Carlos Cruzat preside el Comité del Kiwi de Chile, una organización de adhesión voluntaria que se creó en febrero del 2009 y está conformada paritariamente por productores y exportadores de kiwi y por las organizaciones que los representan. Se encuentra funcionando desde febrero del 2009. Perdón. Hoy cuenta con 44 empresas exportadoras y sus respectivos 680 productores que en conjunto representan el 80% del volumen total de kiwi exportado desde Chile. Carlos, un honor tenerte con nosotros y tienes la palabra. No te escuchamos, Carlos.
Ahí sí, perdón.
Gracias.
Ahí sí.
Sí, perfecto.
Un saludo a todos.
Okay, so very welcome everybody. Also, people did know. So the Kiwi committee is composed of ASOEX. We are a part of ASOEX and Fruta. So ASOEX represents the exporters and Fruta represents the importers. And we are looking for ways that the fruits, the kiwi, can be sold in the better way possible. So we are working with the producers, looking how to have a better quality, better product, and make the results for the import be more trustworthy. So we have a assurance maturity program so that for each agriculture place, and we also have a right-training program so that we can teach the exporter and importers the process so that the consumption and sale is of top quality. So we are doing this process with the QR code. So India is a very important market for us. If we make an analysis of all the exports that we have regarding Chilean kiwi, we have seen that in the Far East, it only represents 17%.
Por lo tanto, es un mercado en desarrollo y muy interesante. Obviamente es necesario mirarlo de forma desagregada. Si bien Chile ha crecido de manera significativa en el lejano oriente, hoy día llegando a ser el número 1 de los exportadores de fruta fresca a China, al mirar cada uno de estos países de manera individual, que es como realmente lo hacemos, es que vemos el potencial que tiene y ha tenido la India. En los últimos 5 años, India ha crecido casi en un 1000%, en un 921%. En tanto, China lo ha hecho en casi un 60%. Ese crecimiento de la India se registra en estos volúmenes exportados desde el año 2010, en que el volumen enviado era estable, habían ciertas limitaciones para crecer en ese momento, hasta que ocurre un momento nuevo, digamos, que fue el despertar de las exportaciones de la India, y esto ocurre a partir del año 2016, donde empezamos a incrementar los volúmenes enviados. Esos volúmenes enviados rápidamente fueron soportados o apoyados por una acción de promoción que nos invitó a realizar la entonces directora de ProChile en India y un grupo de importadores que tenían el interés de hacerlo. Como comité, nuestros socios para actuar a nivel mundial en cualquier actividad de promoción y de representación internacional son ProChile y ASOEX. A través de ASOEX nosotros realizamos todas nuestras actividades, pertenecemos a ASOEX y nosotros canalizamos nuestro objetivo utilizando las distintas plataformas, oficinas que tiene ASOEX a lo largo del mundo. Es así como en el año 2018 hicimos nuestra primera promoción, una promoción bastante inusual en el sentido que participaron los importadores, 3 de los más grandes importadores de India participaron en conjunto, colaborando con esta acción de promoción. Aquí podemos ver a la directora de ProChile de esos años, y también vemos al director de marketing de ASOEX, que son quienes lideraron la campaña y la llevaron a cabo físicamente en la India. Las acciones fueron muy diversas, desde distintos carteles en los mercados, acciones puntuales a nivel de mercado para que los compradores y los vendedores de fruta pudieran conocer el kiwi chileno. Hicieron muchas actividades que salieron rápidamente en prensa, fueron muy llamativas, e inmediatamente Chile comenzó a tener una posición de volumen que superó la de Nueva Zelanda, país que normalmente había tenido el dominio del volumen en la India, y eso significó que obviamente Nueva Zelanda despertó con una reacción fuerte de competencia a los kiwis chilenos, porque vio la oportunidad que se estaba perdiendo y el espacio que estaba ganando Chile. Es así como la campaña continuó durante el periodo de verano de la India, con distintas acciones. Aquí tenemos un chef que la gente de India y de esa región en general conoce por su destacada audiencia y conocimiento de la comida, y por lo tanto que él fuera un referente fue muy importante. Como se señaló antes y señaló Amit, el tema de la promoción de la salud ha sido muy importante. Aquí tenemos información que se hizo a través del Big Basket, de la venta online. Hicimos campañas en distintos supermercados, hicimos campañas físicamente en los supermercados y también en pequeños comercios, que como mostraba Vivek, el mundo de la India tiene muchos pequeños lugares a los cuales debemos llegar, y en todos ellos estuvimos presentes, y en algunos casos motivando a la gente que hace la compra para luego distribuirla a las pequeñas ciudades o a los pequeños centros de comercio, con estímulos para que accedieran a premios. En el año 2019 hicimos una estrategia distinta, decidimos invitar a las cadenas de supermercados para que conocieran Chile, porque así como nosotros teníamos un conocimiento menor de lo que era la cultura india, también entendíamos que a ellos les faltaba conocer de nuestra propia cultura. Visitamos con estos supermercados huertos, fuimos a visitar también centrales frutícolas, las cuales pudieron ver los estándares de calidad de food safety, y además vieron la fruta que se procesaba en Chile, y tuvimos la suerte de conversar con las distintas empresas para entender qué es lo que quería el mercado de la India, que es una de las claves, entender qué quiere nuestro nuevo socio, en cuál es el producto que tenemos que colocar. Durante 2 días tuvieron reuniones con 20 empresas exportadoras, un poco más, fueron 25 empresas exportadoras, en las cuales se hizo el vínculo para poder iniciar una comercialización directa. En agosto, nuestro expresidente y embajador plenipotenciario para el Asia, el señor Eduardo Frei, participó junto al director de ProChile y a una delegación de empresarios, y fue parte de la semana de de promoción de los kiwis en la India, y aquí lo vemos apoyándonos en nuestra campaña, y con esto quiero mostrar la importancia que tiene para Chile la India, que un presidente viaje a establecer vínculos, porque no solamente lo hace para el kiwi, lo hace para todas las frutas frescas, para todos los productos desde Chile. Está mostrando la relevancia y dónde estamos poniendo en importancia a la India. Lo estamos elevando a un nivel de mercado muy atractivo, que tiene un despertar actual que parece ser muy promisorio, y por lo tanto queremos seguir mejorando las relaciones que tenemos. Si miramos hoy día los temas de logística, que por ahí también se presentó, hay sería una distancia importante de navegación que requiere a lo menos 45 días y hace que la fruta llegue un poquito cansada en algunas oportunidades, y si es que el mercado está detenido producto de alguna barrera de tipo sanitaria o por algún tema de papeleo con la oficina de aduana, eso demora aún más la venta y genera eventuales pérdidas de fruta, lo cual hace que algunos exportadores tengan bastante inseguridad de ir a la India. Esto se ha ido resolviendo en los últimos años para bien en el caso de la mayor parte de la fruta. Es una tendencia que debemos ir penetrando, mejorando y fortaleciendo, el que las barreras que tenemos, tanto fitosanitarias como arancelarias o como de papeleos en frontera, disminuyen. Chile en general hoy día tiene una fruticultura muy sustentable, es ampliamente conocido por su calidad de producto Food Safety. El Comité del Kiwi trabaja con este logo member para asegurarle a quienes compran su fruta qué proceso hay detrás. Por otra parte, este proceso de la dificultad de comercialización o la dificultad que puede haber en fronteras se hace más crítico en especies que son más perecibles, como son las uvas, las paltas, las cerezas y también los arándanos. India para nosotros es absolutamente interesante, es un gran mercado, hemos aprendido mucho en estos años, las campañas que hemos hecho han sido un aporte para conocer de qué manera llegar al mercado y hacer las promociones. La vitamina C probablemente nos va a ayudar muchísimo a penetrar dentro del mercado. La situación del COVID, la búsqueda de vitamina C en el mundo hoy día es algo muy interesante, por lo tanto vemos un gran potencial en la India. Y lo otro que creemos que es muy importante es que con la India o con la gente que hace la comercialización en la India, tenemos una cercanía muy grande en la forma de aproximarnos a cómo hacer negocios. Si bien tenemos culturas que son muy distintas en muchos aspectos, en este aspecto que tiene que ver con la familia, con la cercanía, con el afecto, con la manera en que decimos las cosas, creo que hay una tremenda cercanía y eso puede ser una gran oportunidad de trabajo en el futuro. Chile es un país donde tenemos muchas cosas que ofrecer en términos de frescor. En esta fotografía que ustedes ven aquí, ustedes se los voy a explicar, pero en el fondo aquí tenemos kiwis, hay peras, hay cerezas, hay paltos al fondo, hay uva vinífera, también hay cítricos. Chile tiene una condición climática excepcional y que está disponible para seguir trabajando con la India. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, Carlos, por esta interesante presentación de cómo ha sido la experiencia de exportar kiwis a la India. Y de tu presentación nos damos cuenta que uno de los cuellos de botella más importantes es la entrada de los productos perecibles, como las cherries o la palta o las uvas, por las aduanas de la India después de haber viajado 45 días. Ese es un gran tema. Y esa sería la primera pregunta, porque yo creo que es algo que seguramente desincentiva a algunos exportadores a intentar entrar al mercado de la India. Así que esa es la primera pregunta que les dejo a nuestros panelistas, si tienen alguna sugerencia de cómo sortear esta dificultad mientras el tiempo de llegada de los productos perecibles a la India sea tan largo. ¿Qué se puede hacer? ¿Hay alguna ruta alternativa que ustedes sugieran? ¿Hay algún puerto en especial donde haya, dentro de la India, donde sea más fácil ingresar esta fruta perecible? Bueno, les dejo la palabra, por favor.
Loreto, un comentario desde Chile. Para tener rutas más cortas, lo que necesita Chile es un volumen crítico de frutas desplazándose a la India. Por lo tanto, en la medida que el comercio aumente, vamos a poder ir solucionando esa brecha. Y por lo tanto es un proceso que tenemos que construir, el que se intensifique la comercialización. El proceso de solucionar las barreras que existen es un tema más bien político entre gobiernos, y ahí ASOEX es nuestro gran artífice de ir a negociar y buscar soluciones. Y probablemente lo que necesitamos a nivel de comercio es una contraparte que haga esa misma gestión, donde ProChile, junto con ASOEX, son los que logran hacer más fácil los procesos. Necesitamos lo mismo desde el lado de la India. En el caso de los arándanos pasó un largo tiempo hasta que finalmente se firmó un documento que estaba acordado hace mucho tiempo. Esa agilidad es la que nos hace falta como para mejorar el comercio.
No sé si Vivek o Amit tienen alguna sugerencia de cómo si es que existe una contraparte en la India que pudiera ayudar al ingreso de estos productos, o cómo se podría generar. Ustedes como partners, por ejemplo, y tal como lo mencionó Natasha, que fue muy importante tener un partner local, ¿tienen alguna posibilidad de apoyar en estos trámites o generar una instancia que ayude a estos productos a entrar más fácil a la India?
Entonces, en términos en cuanto a las importaciones, lo que podemos hacer claramente es ayudar en cuanto a las aduanas. Nosotros hemos trabajado muy cercamente con la calidad de la fruta, donde hemos sugerido un sistema que se llama Pre-Arrival Documentary, donde ayudamos que estos documentos son llevados anteriormente para que todos estos documentos sean entregados 15 días antes de que la fruta llegue al país. Sin embargo, toda esta documentación, todo esto es entregado excepto una última prueba que es realizada en India, que es la prueba de food safety, de salubridad de la comida. Y bueno, en cuanto al tiempo de tránsito del puerto y tierra para que sea reducido, eso es bastante difícil. Entonces, lo que ha tratado de hacer Food Safety es, en un puerto en particular, donde recibe la mayor cantidad de containers, es dejar un laboratorio en aquel puerto para que se pueda hacer estas pruebas de lo más antes posible. Entonces, lo que tenemos que hacer es para poder interiorizar estos productos a estos laboratorios, llega una carta a las autoridades y nosotros esperamos para esa prueba en los laboratorios, y varios utilizan esta carta. Entonces, el producto puede llegar a su bodega sin tener que hacer el testeo y todo aquello de 3 a 5, que se demora 3 a 5 días. Entonces, el gobierno permite entregar estos documentos anteriormente y sentar todo esto. Bueno, y algunos exportadores no utilizan esto porque no lo conocen. Algunos saben que pues, en cuanto a la seguridad es mejor que lo haga la gente de aduanas. Entonces es muy importante que entender esta legislación y que usted adhiera a la ley. Y una vez que usted adhiera a la ley, usted usa estas facilidades, especialmente en cuanto a productos en donde dan estas facilidades. Entonces pueden llevar este container a este lugar en vez de gastar dineros adicionales en estos transportes. Entonces, para reducir la cantidad de días, de 25 días, esto en cuanto a oferta y demanda. El momento en que el volumen aumenta, la cantidad de... Entonces, por ejemplo, no sé, desde Savannah a Mumbai puede llegar a 25 o 27 días, pero hay barcos que pueden llegar a ese tiempo, pero si son comodidades, uno busca el costo de viaje más bajo. Entonces, bueno, para poder tener un transporte más rápido es tal vez pagar un poco más el precio. Y eso nos está dando una solución más rápida para que el producto llegue en 45 días. Entonces, todas esas son algunas medidas que ya están disponibles para los exportadores para que puedan reducir sus costos.
Thank you so much, Amit. That's very valuable information, since this is one of the critical points so far for for exporters to try to get to the Indian market. There's another question that says, will Indian authorities accept digital copies of export documents in order to avoid paperwork? Is that working already?
Already it isn't working. All documents are e-documents.
Todos los documentos son e-documents, son documentos virtuales. Sin embargo, el problema es que las autoridades tienen la autoridad de requerir los documentos físicos. Entonces, ustedes también tienen que entender que nosotros en este comercio tenemos personas que han tenido han tenido problemas con la documentación de importación. Entonces, por ejemplo, hace poco algunos certificados de importación de uvas de China eran falsos. Entonces eso, bueno, ha dado claramente un problema. Entonces, en cuanto a los oficiales de aduanas, ellos exigen estos documentos, pero si usted los sube estos documentos online, no debería tener un problema con esta documentación. Hay otra pregunta, es si es posible tener una posibilidad de saber un poco respecto de los cítricos y cómo está el mercado de India para los cítricos. Bueno, entonces creo que los cítricos son los productos de segundo mayor importación en el país, aparte del kiwi. El kiwi no está tan cercano. Hace 5 años atrás, Australia, Estados Unidos y África del Sur estábamos importando varios productos al mercado indio. Sin embargo, Egipto ha evolucionado durante los últimos 5 o 6 años de manera tan fuerte que ellos han tomado casi el 80% del mercado. Así que la demanda de cítricos es enorme. Es la segunda más grande dentro del mercado indio. Kiwi está muy cerca de eso, pero los cítricos es muy importante. Y es un gran volumen, pero el único problema es que Egipto ha venido como competidor con el precio y con la consistencia de la oferta. Entonces, bueno, hay una oportunidad, pero es competitivo. Y bueno, respecto a los limones en particular, India es un país más de limón pequeño que de limones. Está más acostumbrado al limón pequeño que al limón grande. Y bueno, eso ha crecido bastante en el mercado indio.
Okay, thank you. Before going to the next question, may I ask you, Vivek, if you can share the contact information of your office in Chile that you said that you just established here?
Okay.
I would like to get in touch with you.
Okay. I will
Yeah. There's another question more specific, and it has to do with the grapes. And it's what kind of grapes is more popular in India?
Bueno, también quisimos preguntar qué tipo de uva es más popular en India y sería más beneficioso exportar en India. Bueno, nosotros deberíamos entender primero el desafío y la oportunidad. El desafío es el gran transporte, el tiempo de transporte. Y es, bueno, muy común en la categoría de las uvas que es lo suficientemente fuerte para que no se rompa. Entonces, en India se siembra bastante uva y se exporta bastante uva, pero predominantemente la Red Glove, que tiene semilla, ha sido muy exitoso en el mercado indio, ha sido muy fuerte, tiene un color muy bonito, muy agradable. Y India tiene esta creencia de que lo que si es rojo es bueno, entonces el color rojo apela mucho. Entonces, que sea una uva roja, grande, jugosa, tiene una muy buena llegada en India. Pero India está abierto porque sí consume varias uvas blancas sin pepa. Entonces, eso a veces puede ser una dificultad encontrar ese tipo de uva en India.
this moment, but I'm sure that there are going to be many people who would like to get in contact with you. So thank you so much for
Bueno, entonces ahora
sharing.
quisiéramos agradecer a todos por compartir toda esta información con nosotros.
I'm sure that you're going to get a lot of people
Amit,
all these little things that they should know about how to get into India and how to overcome the difficulties in
bueno,
customs.
entonces nos pondríamos en contacto para poder superar estos problemas de documentación, de aduanas. Entonces, muchas gracias por compartir su conocimiento. Muchas gracias por también a Carlos por compartir su conocimiento en cuanto a los kiwis. Y bueno, espero que todos puedan seguir trabajando. Muchas gracias a los participantes, a la embajadora, a Natasha, muchas gracias también. Ha sido muy iluminador compartir toda esta información y muchas personas también les gustaría contactarse con usted.
Not only to learn more about your experience, but also
Y bueno, no solamente para aprender su experiencia, sino también para poder contactarse y realizar negocios. Así que muchas gracias. Muchas gracias a todos.
Chilean exporters markets beyond India.
Y bueno,
Thanks, Natasha, for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for participating.
muchas gracias a todos por participar. Realmente lo he apreciado mucho y fue muy interesante para mí. Mucha suerte para todos. Esperemos que podamos hacer más negocios juntos.
And please count with the foundation.
Y por favor, cuenten con la Fundación. Nuestra institución está diseñada para ayudar en todos esos aspectos. Así que estamos aquí para ayudarlos en todo lo que requieran. Así que por favor, no tengan problema en contactarnos y esperemos que vamos a trabajar todos juntos. Y muchas gracias por venir a todos. Tengan buena tarde.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you, guys.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Y gracias a todos los que nos escucharon hoy día. Gracias.